11th. 2 games left in the Premier League today. Look, it looks like United are going down the lines of Ederson or Matheus Fernandes, and not both. I want to know what you think about that. Should we be going for both? I'll give you my opinions on that, as I always do. Rashford scoring an amazing goal. What does that mean? It means more profit for us. It means amortization will go down. We'll talk about West Ham going down as well. And what does that mean? Forest, Anderson as well. No Champions League, and they're not going to go down. Newcastle are not going to probably get European football. They're probably going to have to sell as well. Look, everything is looking good. Everything is looking good. Scott says Arsenal. Look, we can get into all that as well. If you're an Arsenal fan, I want to tell you about the delusion of Arsenal fans as well. It's absolutely ridiculously delusional from what I've seen. I mean, you know, I think Arsenal fans should be, you know, happy, excited about winning the league, but don't go too far. It is ridiculous. Merpez in the chat, legend as always. Hey JB, how far on Ederson? Well, I'll give you all that as well. Is Valverde on fire? Sale after the malarkey at Madrid, and he runs out. Nicarutsu, the legend, is on the channel as well. So we will get on to all of that. So look, if this is your first time here, this is the best community on this platform, hands down. If you are going to get involved, be respectful to the community, to yourselves, to me. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes out and we will ban you. We don't like to do it, but we absolutely will. And second of all, look, I read out all of the chat and the comments. This is why the show takes long, because I genuinely do read out your chats. So this is the United transfer update show, as we try to do one during the day, and then we do an evening show as well. So look, we're going to start on, I think, Marcus Rashford. Look, let's talk about that. Now, we've done a couple of shows on here, the transfer window, what we can afford. And when I talk about the transfers, I will continually talk about amortization, absolutely 100%. And look, Rashford represents the profit, pure profit. Wages wise, 300k will come off the amortization figure, which means that we've got more to spend as well. And look, what a goal he scored. And I think Barcelona are going to find it very, very difficult not to buy him. Now, I know there's a significant chunk of the fan base that want Rashford back, and you know, they were playing it down. Barca were playing it down, and I think they're going to struggle not to buy him. Look, Rashford, I'm going to say this. Look, I have a respect for him. And my respect is, you know, unlike some players that we've had, he wants to progress his career. And I admire that from Rashford. I admire him going to get his move. Has he proved the point? Look, I don't think he's proved the point here. I think he's a good player. I think he does. I think he'll do well in Spain. And I think he's well worth the money. And I think the good thing that we said last year, or one of the things that I said, Lee Wood is in the chat as well, absolute legend as well, is this. Look, the best thing he could have done was go to a Barcelona, get back into the England squad, check, do well for Barcelona, score some goals, and against Real Madrid, what an absolute worldie he scored as well. So look, I admire it. 26 million pounds for him, I think, is a bargain. I think it's an absolute bargain. I think he's now probably gone back up to being worth 35 to 40 million. 29 years old. Look, he seems like a fit guy as well, and I think he'll probably play till he's 34, 35. So look, some cracking news as well, and we'll get on to the results as well. On the results, you know, I think we finished third. I think it's such an important game, previous game, to get the points on the board, and we will get on to, of course, the game as well. Look, it is, I think we've been very, very fortunate, but it is what it is. Galatasaray, so Potrect says Galatasaray 3, United 0. Look, that was a long time ago, and look, get into your comments. We don't mind the banter. We don't mind rival fans on here as well. So please get into the chat. Please give the video a like. If you've not given the video a like, and I'm looking at Nikarutsu, Sky, Leewood, get in there with the likes. It really does help the channel out and really does push the content out there. So Leewood says, Arsenal had the same sort of goal given at Old Trafford this season when they fouled the keeper. No difference to yesterday's goal incident. And we will talk about that next as well. Look, I like West Ham. I don't want them to go down, but again, if it means we get Matheus Fernandes, you know, I don't want West Ham to go down. I mean, that Arsenal goal, look, delusional. I think the Premier League want Arsenal to win the Premier League. I do. Niku said Rashford isn't good as the media makes him out to be, and I'll be so happy to see the back of him. Sky, absolute legend, is in the house as well. Kathleen says United, yes, United. Nikarutsu, Scott, yeah, done that. Frost says, so what do you do in this channel? We talk about United. Look, we do get shifted around on football as well. Look, we don't mind talking about different clubs, but look, this is a United centric channel. We do talk about transfers and we do get onto different topics as well, so please feel free for us not to get in your comment. What is wrong with you? I don't know. The overhead kick, Ahmed, yes. Let's talk about Celtic as well. We will talk about briefly about the free kick, the overhead kick. What a goal. What an absolute fantastic goal. Celtic winning again. They're on a push towards the league as well. So I think there's been some good goals, and it's been a good weekend for us as well. So it's, look, whether or not we played badly, I think this Premier League is a ridiculous league. Got covered in pints in the pub. What a goal. And again, that's one of those goals I think should be celebrated. Absolute phenomenal goal. Rashford will have clubs after him. The best thing for us is that he started to play well again. So now if Barca don't want him, other clubs will. Yes, exactly, Lee, 100%. JB, that was never a foul. No, I think that the Premier League want Arsenal to win. I really do. James says you always walk alone. I do. We don't want the banter, so get in there with the banter as well. Yeah, the overhead that overhead kit. So look, let's talk about that game, because the significance from our perspective is this. West Ham, I think, will probably go down. I thought they were unlucky not to be given that goal. By the logic, half of Arsenal goals should be overruled. I think Arsenal played negative football. I do. I think they're going to, and I've got this sneaky suspicion that they're going to win the Champions League. I don't know what. I think they'll be very, very negative in that game. They're going to win the Premier League. Now, look, some of the things, and I'll tell you, it's on the channel as well. I don't know the name of the person. I'm not going to name names, but look, it is ridiculous. Man has got a GameCube talking about United. What? Because I've got, so Jamesy, because I've got a GameCube in the back on a shelf. Apparently, again, ridiculous. And look, the banhammer comes out. I don't know what is wrong with people, but look, it is what it is. I don't know. People comment on the running shoes and stuff. Who cares? I really don't care. So the good thing for us, and this is a good segue, I think, into what we're going to talk about next. Ederson or Matheus Fernandes. Look, we have already done the deal for Matheus for Ederson. We've already agreed terms, and again, I've reached out to somebody. We have already agreed terms. Ederson wants to come. Ederson can't believe his luck. Look, Atalanta beat AC Milan 3-2. Ederson scored and assisted. Now, we are talking about tiers again. We are going to talk about the tiers again. I got a promotion at work. Nikarutsu, well done. Good man. The game could, again, people comment on all sorts of stuff on this channel like I'm fussed, like I'm bothered. I'm just glad we got the point on the board. It's a boost having the Champions League. We need to all be over Fernandes, yes, from West Ham this summer. He will join us if we move for him again, yes. People are just ridiculous. I don't know. Okay, yeah. We get all sorts on this channel. So, look, it seems like it's going to be Ederson or Fernandes. I think that is a ridiculous thing. Now, look, if we are going to go for tier 1, 2, and 3, I think that, maybe Anderson. Again, I'm going to briefly talk about that. We have to get 3 midfielders. We have to get 3 midfielders. We got to get the tier 1. So to Amini or Valverde, their heads have been turned. I think, as we spoke about, UEFA are getting involved in this, and I think it will be okay. But it's quite clear Madrid are going to try to do something with these players. I think that they're going to, particularly after this season, they're not going to win a league, which is unacceptable for them in La Liga. I think they're going to look to get rid of 1 or 2 of these players and bring in some more midfielders. I think they'll get rid of both. And I think they'll probably look to go get Stiller. I think they'll probably look to go and get Rodri as well. So I think that's been established that he's going to go to Madrid. We definitely need 3. Mount and Ugarte are meant to be going, and Casemiro is out. Is this a goal bridge? Look, I take that as a compliment. I really do. If people liking me to go bridge, I'm not fussed. I'm not fussed. This is me, and if people don't like me, don't come on the channel. It is completely free. We don't mind the comments. And look, you guys are on it. The mods are on it today. What's up with Goldbridge? Look, Grace, it's not me. I am not on that. I'm in, if anything, giving a compliment to Goldbridge, and if people liking me to him, I'll take it. I'll take it because he's got the biggest channel, and if people like that, it's all good with me. Nicaruzzi says, okay, what if I trade you a slice of cake for your choice of loan of the badge for 24 hours? So JB Bridge says, Scott, look, I don't care. It doesn't bother me if people think that. It's all good. Bring it on. So look, this club, look, let's talk about this. Ederson versus Matheus Fernandes. Now, I'll give you my opinion on who I would pick, but United have already lined up Ederson. It is exactly the same. It is exactly the same as we lined up Shesko and Ollie Watkins. Scott says Valverde to play right back at Madrid next season. I mean, that would be a complete waste of time. This is why if we can get 1 or 2 of those players, I absolutely would. And look, we're supposedly going to get the tier 1 or 2, but Ederson or Matheus Fernandes. Look, apparently we're going to choose one or the other. And my question is, why not both? Why aren't we getting both of these players? Now, whether or not he can play right back, CM or Cam, I would much rather Valverde as a centre midfielder. I think I'd much prefer him in there. I don't think that's a deal we do unless Bruno Fernandes does go. I think that he comes in. Look, I think they are slightly different players as we talk about on this channel. I think Valverde would be probably a replacement for Bruno Fernandes, or they've sold Tuameni instead, from what I've seen. I think Tuameni is going to be sold, and I think we should be all over that deal. Grace says it's got to be Fernandes, and I agree with it. I think Matheus Fernandes is now Premier League proven as the players that we like. 21, I think he's mature beyond his years. I mean, but I would go both. If we're going to get tier 1, and as we said, we've got 150 million pounds. I think that is far too low. As Grace says, we need 2 6s and competition for Mainu. Have a blessed day. Thank you, Decky. Thomas says Barca won the league title with Rashford stay and Barca next season. Yes, Thomas, I think they're going to struggle not to bomb. And I think for 26 million quid, I think that's a bargain. I think that's a bargain for them as well. So hopefully they will go and get that deal done. Scott says, I've got the flu. Man flu, Scott, is the worst. It's a scientific fact that man flu is awful. It is awful. So look, I hope you're doing well. 26 million or Rashford stays in the reserves. It says Gracie. United could simply offer Celtic 10 mil. Now that's a bargain. I just feel cold. That's all. Look, mate. Man flu is awful. Don't underplay it. Scott is being brave. Grace, I think he goes. Look, we can't look. I don't think, Grace, that Rashford deserves to be in the reserves. I don't think he does. I think that he's gone out. He's seen an opportunity that he wants to go and get an opportunity, and I think he's achieved it. So I think good luck to Rashford. I don't think he wants to come back. He wants to stay. He did an interview and he wants to stay. So look, I say good luck to Rashford. I've got no issue with him at all, and I want him to do well. Who's the best choice, Carrick or Mourinho? Neither. But if I had to pick one, it would be Jose Mourinho. It would be, would you take Conte at United? I don't think Conte would fit these players. As I said before, Grace, I think we're going to keep the majority of these players, and they're not going to respond to hard work. They don't like the structure. Conte would demand structure, discipline, and they don't like it. They don't like to work hard. They just don't. And I think Conte, in terms of Bruno Fernandes, I don't think would be a good fit. I think he doesn't like ego. I think he would probably, don't get me wrong, Fernandes I think would fit this team under him, but I think Conte, I like Conte. I just don't think he would be a fit for this team. Scott says I would have Martinez, who is the Portuguese manager. Tanaka says all sorts of stuff. That Liverpool are going to get Champions League. I think, would you take Lampard? Thomas says no, I wouldn't take Lampard. Look, this is a club, and we will get back to Ederson versus Fernandes as well. Lampard for me, no. We need an elite coach. We need an elite coach. Wilcox is the manager. Niche Fan is in the house. Alt 5 as well is in the house. Wilcox is, one of the things I think is going to stop us from getting an elite coach is Wilcox. They're going to have to work under him. The guy is egotistical. I think the guy is wrong for this club. Absolutely ridiculous. Thomas is his busted names. Rooney, no. Bruno is the manager, says Grace. Bruno Fernandes, for all sorts of reasons, look, his time has come. Bruno Fernandes, I think the mix of Bruno Fernandes, the mix of Wilcox, I think is crazy. Niche Fan says Conte taking orders from Wilcox. I mean, anybody taking orders from Jason Wilcox has got to be mad. Has got to be mad. Grace says, make Dallo the manager, Amarin his assistant, Cristiano to take the job in 20. But again, I don't think Cristiano would be right. Maybe at some point, I just don't think he is the right guy. I want an established elite coach in this club. Thomas says Rooney, company could be an option. I think company could be an option for this club. You know, again, he was Anderlecht, Burnley, so Bayern Munich, and I think if he wanted to come, I think he should be under consideration. Would he, given that he's a City legend? I don't think he would do, but I wouldn't mind company. Wilcox is the manager. Bring in a roller. Amarin would have won the league. And Grace, I think if this club had have backed him, got his players in, I think Amarin would be in with a chance. As we will do a end of show review. And I think Amarin is going to go down with an unfair view in this fan base. Antonio taking orders. This fan says CR7 is going to be the sporting director of Almeria. He's going to win La Liga. Maresca is the way to go if we're not sticking with Carrick. I think Maresca, I think he's waiting for City job. I think Pep is probably going to stand down at the end of the season. So look, back to Ederson, and I wanted to, as we're talking about Wilcox, one of the things I wanted to bring in, see you later, Sky. I take Maresca. He likes to use the touchline wingers and inverted fullbacks, says Grace. Now, look, Ederson or Matheus Fernandes, I think we're going to get two. And I wonder who the tier 1 is. I think it's a mistake. Look, we've lined up an Ederson, Fernandes. We've lined that up as well. Niche fans said Ederson, absolutely no way. Fernandes, yes. Now, if I and Grace, as we spoke about on this show, tier 1, Carlos B. I think is going to be the one. I really, really do. If it's a choice, Ederson or Fernandes, Fernandes for me. I agree with the chat. I wouldn't mind both. Ederson, look, is the only question for me with him is why has no one else picked him up? Atletico Madrid were looking at him. The Gomez deal, he's going to go to Atletico. Somerville as well. I like Somerville. I do, but the only problem for me is West Ham are going to go down. I don't want too many of those players. Andrew, welcome to the chat, says anyone but Baleba. I don't mind him. I like Baleba. I do, but Andrew, as I've said, he can't be the main side. Look, I don't mind Tchouaméni, Carlos Baleba, Matheus Fernandes. Look, those three, I wouldn't even mind Ederson as one of those players. The question for me is Ederson good enough? Will he be an Ugarte type of player? Why doesn't he get into the Brazil squad? Why do Brazil prefer Fabinho, Casemiro? What is up with Ederson? I don't know. Look, if you look at the attributes, he's reasonably tall. He's box to box. He's energetic. He's progressive with the ball. Is he one of those players who is overhyped? Is he one of those players who is... He looks better than what he is on paper. I genuinely don't know. Every time I've seen him play, look, he looks okay. And Andrew's right. He did score. He scored against AC Milan, and he assisted as well. I wouldn't mind him. I think he would be an upgrade on Ugarte. But if it is a choice, I would go for Fernandes. Now, West Ham are going to go down. Now, what we would get Fernandes. Now, one of the things we need to think about here is these would be cheap deals. And when I say cheap, we talk about amortization. Amortization in this club is really, really key. So we've got about £100 million of amortization, which is different from the overall. As we know, amortization is the transfer fee, agent fees, and the wage. Ederson wants 85k. It is a INEOS Brucey bonus. They love a cheap deal. I think Matheus Fernandes would be a relatively cheap deal to do. 50 plus probably 100. I don't know what he's on now. I think probably 100, 120k. So that represents about 20 million quid of amortization. And we've got about 100 to add on, so it's probably in and around 200 to 250 million pounds. Now, transfer fees, that is what most people focus on. We need to take a shift away from that, and amortization under the squad cost rules. So either one of these deals is going to be cheap. We've lined up these deals and we've got to go and get these deals done. Matheus Fernandes is Liverpool. Look, they like the player as well. It is the sort of thing whereby you blink and Liverpool will do the deal. Now, the good thing for us. So Grace says that he's on 60k. Look, if this was the old Glazers, we'd probably put him on 200k. I think the one good thing I will say for INEOS, and I'm going to give them a not credit as such, but you know, these sorts of players, I think they'll do well to put them. You know, they won't put them on 150k straight away. They'll probably put them on 120. The only problem for me with that is, look, they are cheap. Liverpool may come in and go, look, we'll give you 150, 180 because they can do that and pay the same amount. So it depends whether or not he's money orientated. Look, we're in the Champions League. Liverpool are not going to be champions. So we can offer, and the good thing about the Champions League is that we are now in there and we can offer that to players. So that is the one thing that we've got. I think that is the plus point. And as Scott says there, I will go back up to read the chat. It's just Scott's message caught my eye there. Ederson is done. Scott, Ederson is done, but United are lining up the transfers. This is what we do. Look, I don't mind both, but Matheus Fernandes is on the radar as well, and we've got to get that deal done. I think Matheus Fernandes for me is the one. Now, my only concern is he's young. Is he gonna be consistent? You know, I'm happy with the money. I'm happy with the cost. It is consistency for me. Ederson is coming into his prime, and you know, I think either or are going to be a chance. I think they would come under the tier 2. But look, let me go through the chats, and I will go through the chats, and we will see what everyone is saying. Niche fan says Ederson, absolutely no way. Pep will stay if Arsenal win the league. Tier 1, says Grace, is Baleba. Yeah, which I like him. I think it will be a mistake to make him us tier 1. Could Baleba be the backup 6, but we need 2 Amini? I think if Baleba comes in, Baleba it will probably be the tier 1. I think he will be the tier 1, which I think will be a mistake. I think what we should be looking at is Matheus Fernandes should be the tier 3, Carlos B should be the tier 2, and Tchouaméni should be the 1. I think Baleba, you bring him in, and I think he starts. I think he'll be the tier 1. I do. Ederson scored for Atalanta. Yes, Ederson is done. Fernandes held his own in their two-man. And we like a pivot. We love a pivot on this channel. S9, well, Sir says we need 2 high-quality midfielders instead of 1 super expensive. We are seriously lacking in the midfield. Now, would you sacrifice the tier 1 to bring in 3 midfielders? What we've got to understand here is that Ugarte, we're going to look to shift him on. That means we've got Kobe Mainoo on his own. Casemiro is going to go. I'm still saying to you, keep an eye on Casemiro staying. We can't go into the Champions League. We can't go into the league with 3. It will be impossible. We cannot do it. We cannot go in there without an experienced leader. As we saw, Casemiro, we struggled on the weekend. Kobe Mainoo struggled. Casemiro at 34, as I don't know what's happened to him this season, but he's had a great season. And I've got to say, I got it wrong in Casemiro this season. I think he's come up with the goals. I think one thing, even though his legs have gone, I've been impressed the fact that he's adapted his game, and he's shown his class this season. He's shown his absolute class this season, and why we absolutely need to get that experience in there. Tchouaméni, I think, is probably perfect. Tonali is perfect. Anderson is perfect. Anderson at 70 to 80, I think is fine. I think he scored a goal. I think how he scored the goal, I like Anderson. I don't like him at 100 to 130 million. I think there are better players than that. Tonali, Newcastle are going to have to sell as well, and I think Tonali will represent a big chunk of cash. The Bruno G deal, I know people like him. I like him as well, but 29, 80 million. I'm sorry, I won't go anywhere near that deal. Tonali would probably be the guy, 26 in his prime. To mainly those deals we've got to look to do as well. Interestingly enough, though, do we need to get more than that? We need 3. We need 3. Fernandes is on 60, says Grace. Get Vardy in. Niche fan, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. We need another striker. If we get a left-sided player and we've got Cunha, Shesko, and somebody like a Vardy, again, can you imagine a Jamie Vardy in there teaching a Shesko, teaching the young lad how to be a striker? I don't mind those deals. But I think we need to get an experienced person in as well. JB Ederson is pretty much done. Yes, we've done that one. My biggest concern, says Andrew, is not just other players going to other clubs, but we have such a small window because of the Champions League. Andrew makes a fantastic point. We've got to get these deals done. We've got to get them done now, I think. Baleba, Ederson, and Fernandes would be really disappointing. I want to be hearing names like Tchouaméni and Tonali. Selwyn is in the house, absolute legend as well. Elliot, Fernandes, Gomez, Tonali. Midfield would be sorted. Skelly, Shaw, Rayson, Porro. Porro would be an interesting one. Senesi, I like that as backup. I don't know Harry Maguire, what is going on with him. I can tell you now, the back 2 does not suit him. He needs to play in a back 3. He looked awful. He's looked really bad in the last 2 games. Winger, Rodgers, Palmer, Melsman, Bowen, and Mitoma. Palmer, I don't know with Cole Palmer. I think he's, again, Chelsea look like they're going to have to sell to balance the books. Some of these players, if they are available, we've got to find the money. We've got to find the money. Can you please say hi, Aziz? Of course I can. It will be Ederson, Fernandes, and two many. I hope so, Scott. I don't mind that. Henderson's finally great to be here. Absolute legend as well. Adam Wharton to Liverpool. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I can imagine him going to them as well. So I think Wharton, yes. Ugarte is tier 5. The garbage on Saturday really concerns me for playing 2 games a week. Look, if we get through to FA Cup, if we get through to the Carabao Cup, any sort of stages to those, which we absolutely will do, and we should do, that's 3 games a week. This is why we need 4. And I guarantee this, what we'll get, if we sign 2, you'll get David Ornstein coming out, talking about how whatever business we don't do in this window, we'll go and get them in the next window. Absolute crap. Brad is in the house, legend. Says we need tier 1, have to look at how we play without Casemiro against Leeds, without Kobe. We need players in the midfield that we can allow Kobe to rest and that can fill the role of Casemiro. Brad, 100%. I'm a bit worried that Anderson could have the Calvin Phillips about him. Yes, Calvin Phillips, good point. You know, he looked like an absolute bloody legend. And look at what he's done now. So James says, I like both and another 2 to challenge. Jay says, Sangari would be a good signing from Lens. Yeah, and again, look, mention these names, because one of the things that I love about this community that I think we need to do is we name these names. And why United can't go out and do these deals, why they don't go and do these deals. And it's good for us to talk about them, to have them on the shows. So when they don't do the deals and they mess the deals up, we can say, look, this community mentioned it. So Greenwood is not going to come back. I wish him well. You know, we can talk about the Greenwood stuff. I'm not going to go too much into it. I wish him well. I do. You know, I know players like him. The one thing I don't understand about the fan base, more so ours than anybody else, is we clamber for our ex-players back. Nobody else does. I've never understood this, why we long for these ex-players. I think these ex-players are gone, and there's a reason why he's gone. Look, I'm not saying your opinion is wrong. Just because maybe I don't agree doesn't mean that I think your opinion is wrong. My opinion is just like everyone else's. Your opinion is as good as my opinion. Sometimes it's not. But I think that is nothing wrong in one of these players back. Not for me. It's a shame. It's a shame because I think he would be a fantastic player. His time has been and gone. There's a reason why he's gone, and I don't think that we can have him back. It has to be Tonali. We have to sign players who can hit the ground, and I don't care how much he costs. And Andrew, we shouldn't care. We're in the Champions League. Our revenue, Danny is in the house, legend. Revenue should be in and around 740 to 800 million. If we make 800, how can we not afford to spend on this side? It is ridiculous. If we make 800, but look, we've got to make that because we've got debts we need to clear. And I'm not even talking about the restructure of the money that the Glazers used to buy this club. I'm talking about the 260 that needs to be paid off. We've got no option. We can't even restructure that debt because that has to be paid off. And that is what's going to hit us. That is what's going to bite us on the arse this season, is that money that we've got to pay back for these players. And the profit that we make is going to come off the amortization and not off of that. So Jay says, do you think we'll keep Vitek as second choice next season so we don't have to buy a backup keeper? It's whether he wants to be a number 2. I would agree, play him in the league and the FA Cup. Vitek, for me, I think that, he could be a Henderson type where maybe he wants to forge a career. But the good thing about him, I think he's been in the Championship or League One. If I was him, I would come back to this club. I would establish, or look, imagine those two, Vitek and Lamins, fighting it out. I've got no issue with that. I think I'd like Vitek to come back. I think if he's sensible, I think he would come back. Champions League, look, you never know. Lamins could get injured. Imagine Onana coming back. Imagine a scenario where Onana comes back and Lamins is out. We've got Onana. We absolutely cannot have Onana as the number 2. If I was him, Vitek would come back as the number 2. If Onana comes back, he goes as number 3, and you force him out. Any elite club would force him out. So Vitek, for me, I do hope he comes back. I do hope he comes back. Shadow says, how are you making 800 million? But we're going to make about 640 million. You get at least 80 to 100 for the Champions League. That's 740. That will probably be in and around 720 to 740. Sponsorships. Look, we have just signed a new deal as well, by the way, for the shirt sleeve sponsor. I think that's another 20 million. I'm not saying, Shadow, that's what we're going to make. Those are the estimates of the club. United, whether clubs like it or not, are a powerhouse, and now we're back in the Champions League. We're going to do more deals. Now, the thing is, though, Shadow, as much as that sounds a lot of money, our debt is so vast that 800 is going to go to pay off previous debts. 800 million should be enough should be enough to sustain this club. That 800 sounds like a lot. I think it's going to be in and around 720 to 740 million with everything considered, the new sponsors. But if we make that, we've got to hold them accountable and question why they don't buy more players. It's not enough to sign the players that we need to hit the ground running and increase our capabilities. Pay the debt may be a good idea. Look, we're not going to pay the they're not going to pay the debt that they used to buy the club. They've got to pay the transfer debt. 268 of that is due now. Look, we are 1.3 billion pounds in debt. We've got to find the money for the stadium as well. So we need to be looking to make 800 million to basically to cover the costs. Who are you selling this summer? Now, look, when we talk about selling players, we've got to talk about the money for those profits. Don't go straight on to the budget. Let's just say we go old school. And we've got 250 million to spend. It's not as simple as that now. If you make 26 from a Rashford deal, Rasmus Højlund, we're going to make about 15. Ugarte will probably break even. We will save the wages of Rashford, Jadon Sancho. So that amortization figure does come down. So how we get the budget increased is we don't add on the profit. We reduce the amortization. So selling players are good. If we were under the Premier League rules, you do add on the profit. But under the UEFA squad cap rules, you don't add on profit. You reduce the amortization, which then increases your ability to spend. So borrowing is getting more expensive. The gravy train has stopped. Exactly, that's why they've got to restructure the debt, because we're going to be paying more interest payments. Those interest payments could go, I think we roughly pay about 30 to 40. It could be from 50 to 60. which hits amortization, which hits the debt as well. I've heard so much talk about how we need to worry about money. What a load of S. We're building a new stadium. Andrew, it's not shit, mate. Look, I'm probably closer to these numbers than United. I've gone through the financial statements. I'm a accountant by trade. We're not going to build the stadium because we can afford it. We're looking for investment because we've got no intention of funding the stadium ourselves. We can't afford to fund the stadium. If this club whacks another 2 billion quid onto this club, I don't know, mate. But look, I'm close to the numbers, Andrew. Numbers don't lie. We've done financial shows and I've showed you the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We're 1.4 billion pounds, we're 1.3 billion pounds in debt. 268 has to be paid within a year, and I think that was from last year. The numbers don't lie, my friend. The numbers don't lie. So unless INEOS can get a grip on these numbers, look, we are limited. We can't go out. Look, we should be, if we make 800, I think it'll probably be around 720. But Andrew, we made a loss 33 last year. We were tracking a loss for this year. We may break even. We could make a loss again. If we make a loss, that comes off of what we can spend. You know, we made 33 loss. If we make another 20 loss, that's 50 million loss. That comes off the profits. Like, it doesn't disappear into the ether. So Angela, don't be spun around. The debt is real, the finances are real, and this summer is going to be, I think, is going to be a relatively cheap summer. Who's building the stadium now? The taxpayer. It looks like, well, basically the government have said to the Glazers, swivel. I don't think the taxpayer should pay. And if I was a taxpayer, which I am, and I was a taxpayer for West Ham, Liverpool, City, I would be absolutely annoyed if the Glazers who don't pay tax in this country get the stadium built. So, you know, that is not going to happen. Henderson says, I think we'd let Onana go for a Snickers and a can of Coke. I hope so. Jay says, so Newcastle need a keeper. Let's offer him to Newcastle or Chelsea. I love buying a keeper. They have about 5 or 6 on their books. Onana couldn't catch the flu off me, says Scott. I can see Onana in a Newcastle shirt. Well, hopefully they'll be silly enough. All the stadium costs and taxes, you only be able to spend 200 million. Shadow, I agree with you. I think we'll probably only spend about 200 total. Who would be the replacement for sure? We'll probably look. Harry Amas in the future for me could be the deal. We're looking at Lewis Hall. We've been looking at Skelly as well. Murillo, I know he's right-sided, but maybe could he be the left? Luke Shaw, I think, is going to get offered a new deal. Left back wise, you know, I think we've got to look beyond the established ones, and I think we've got to look for the next up and coming. Luke Shaw is going to be the left back, I think, for the next year. But I think we've either got to bring in Amas, or we absolutely have to bring in an understudy to Shaw. Herbie Legend says, afternoon, JB, the club needs to get its arse in gear. I fear Carrick, if he gets the job, worst case scenario, give him a year's contract, says Herbie. The stadium is a vanity project. Henderson, I don't like the stadium. Don't even get me started. I don't want the stadium. Don't even get me started on it. I reckon I would cash in on Luke Shaw this season. Scott says, I think the stadium was a smokescreen. Look, don't rule out sale. Don't rule out the sale. I think the sale could happen. I think there's a small percentage. As I've said on this channel, I think it will probably be a consortium of the Glazers, Sir Jim, and Saudi consortium, or some sort of consortium. I think it will be a triple threat. If that happened, it will be a nightmare for this club. But it should mean that should go. Might be lazy, but find an up and coming left back. Yeah, Lee Vincent says, how can all these footballers allowed to get in detail? It's nuts. And develop them. Yeah, I agree. Total Football says, can you tell me which players are targeted? Yes. So at the moment, look, Anderson, whether or not we get him, not Tonali was. I don't think he's on the. I don't think he is. Baleba, for a fact, the deal's been done. Matheus Fernandes, and Ederson. The Ederson deal, that's done. That is done. So those are what we're looking at present. It doesn't mean to say they're not looking at elsewhere. Diamonde is being mentioned. We can't afford that. We can't afford that. To Amini as well, looks like he could be the one. 70 million. I would just go get the deal done. I wouldn't even think about it. Said says, hi. Hello, Said. Do you think Rashford will join Arsenal? I think after yesterday, I think Rashford goes to Barcelona. I do. I think Barcelona are trying to get this cheap deal done. They want to do 8 million this year, 2 million next year, a bag of crisps. They're being cheap. They're being cheap. If Barcelona don't want to pay us the money, Arsenal could be an option. Bayern Munich could be an option. There will be options. Aston Villa as well. Moss is in the house, legend. Lee says, all these clubs in debt is ridiculous. Do you think we will make signings before the World Cup? We've got to, Moss. We've got to. I think we will. Defoe, would you like him? I've not seen. I mean, I don't know who that is. I'm not going to lie. I don't know who that is. I will add it to the list and look at that as well. Anon has a hole in his gloves. The Glazers are dogs. Well said. INEOS are as well. The Glazers are dogs. Absolutely. The Saudis are pulling money out of sport, says Henderson. If that is the case, maybe someone else comes in. I know Saudi have pulled out of the golf, haven't they? I can't remember, was it called LVT or something or other? They've pulled out of golf as well. Legend says, hi JB, maybe try and swoop for Cucurella. Would hate it as Grimaldo. I like him. Cucurella, nah, not for me. I'm not his biggest fan. And he'd be very expensive as well. Carlos B is 50-50. He is. I think he is. I think we were really hot on this player. I think he's going to be the player. I think he's going to be the tier 1. Would you consider Lafay or Siddiqui? Yes, Siddiqui. I like Siddiqui. I like Siddiqui a lot. I also, for the striker position, Igor Thiago as well. I think would be very expensive. I would say for the striker position, I would go for something like Lewandowski or Kane. I would go all out on Kane. I would absolutely love Harry Kane. If not, I would probably go for somebody like a Lewandowski for a year. I know people are not going to necessarily like that opinion, but we need somebody to link up with OB, a Shesko, and then Mateta on a free. I know Mateta is probably not people's, but I wouldn't mind him on a free. They can't get rid of historical football stadium. Look at look, Lee. I can't stand the new stadium. I think it is an absolute disgrace that Old Trafford will be knocked down. I know football fans want this brand new spanking stadium. It's only for the Glazers. It is a vanity thing. They want concerts there. It's going to be a circus. How can they even think about knocking it down? It's absolute scumbag. Absolute scumbag. Andrew is against the Baleba deal. No problem with that. Carlos Baleba's value has been tanked. Well, apparently Brighton want 70 to 80. I think United will want to pay 50. 60, I think, would be a fair deal. Barcelona. What about Gordon? Apparently, Gordon is going to buy him. I think Bayern are looking at a Gordon. I do agree with you. So Bruno G. I like Bruno G, but he's going to be 29. I don't think that we can. I don't think that we can lay down 80 million for 29-year-old. If you're going to say to me he would play till he's 35 years old, then 6 years, 80 million, yeah, but he's going to want 200k a week, probably more than that. Bruno Fernandes is looking to get a new deal. He will be pushing for like 100k. Bruno G, I really like him, but for me, it's the cost and the age. Thiago would be a scam. Maybe a new coach would surely want quick assurances that these players are going to come in. The fact that transfers will be at a snail's pace is a sign we get the job done. Heaven help him. So Martinez from Inter Milan. I don't. Again, I think that would be a good one for a Shesko as well. Old Trafford redevelopment is the only option for the stadium. I would love that to happen. I would love it to happen. I think that should happen. Get dictator Mbappe. You need to break the bank for the Toro. What's up, JB? Switches in the house. Love the shirt. Have the same one with Lee Sharp on it. I love a bit of Sharpie. Maybe take Voltamada or Chiran from Inter. Voltamada for me, no way. I don't want him. Not for me. I think he's one of these players. He's hot and cold. He is finished from Dortmund. Voltamada started great from Newcastle, but Howe started playing him in the midfield. Voltamada, he did, and I liked him. I liked him in that striker position. I don't know why he was moved back. I really don't. I really liked him. I thought he reminds me of a Berbatov, and what I mean is his style is very lackadaisical. I think he's very. He looks like a little not slow, but he looks like he just takes his time, and he's got a similar sort of touch. He's got not as good, but I think he's got really, really, really good feet. Nemcha says switch, tall player with, and that's what I mean. Voltamada, he's that sort of, he's an awkward player. I think his technique is really good. I think Newcastle are going to want big for him, and I think that if we go get Tonali, I don't think we are. Voltamada would be an interesting one. He is quite young. Lua on a 1-year deal. I like that. I do. I like it. But he's got to know. But he's got to come down in his wage. You can only have one Voltamada or Shesko says switch. We've got Champions League as well. I think we need two. Look, we've always carried previously Cole, York, Sheringham, Ollie. I think we can have 2 strikers in there. I think we can. But would another striker come in and compete with a Šeško? I don't think they would. I don't think they would. What about Sarloth? Sarloth for me, no. I saw him against Arsenal. Cumbersome. Nah. I think he's slow. Yeah. From what I saw, maybe it's just the one game. I don't think Alvarez would come. Atletico paid a ridiculous amount of money for him. They're going to want the same back. I wouldn't spend 80 million on him. We only look to buy players from the relegated clubs. Let's not look at top Premiership or European clubs. We need another striker, but one with a different. Yeah, Gyökeres. At one point, we had 4 up top. Spicy chicken wings up front, I reckon. Spicy wings up front, I reckon. I love that. So look, the other thing to say on this as well is, you know, we as was mentioned there, the weekend has been an interesting one. Gyökeres, not for me. Under Ruben Amorim, yes. Look, he has scored goals this season. He has scored goals this season. Under Ruben Amorim, yes. Under Michael Carrick, no. Are the days of Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, I mean York, Cole, Sheringham, Ollie, Robbery, Adufal from West Ham. I would need to look at him. I would do. He's scored a lot of pens. Yes, he has. So look, the weekend. Let's talk about. Eagle is a scam. Let's talk about the weekend. I think we're talking about these players. We've got to talk about the weekend. I don't mind him. So Guirassy went to Dortmund after that season that he had. I wonder if he'd be like another Agallo. That's my only concern. Before he went to Dortmund, I don't know how much he scored this year, actually, but I don't mind those signings. I don't mind those sorts of signings. JB, did you hear in 2015, Ramos agreed to join United, but Madrid offered him a pay rise? I did hear that somewhere. Can somebody rage bait JB with Bruno? It's not going to work today. Sunderland was awful. Ignoring the refs, we were crap around. Look, the Sunderland game was crazy. And when we talk about the midfield players, Sunderland proved that. Sunderland absolutely proved that. That I can see you. I can see you in there. I can see you in there. I can see you in there. I'm not bothered. Sunderland was awful. Sunderland was a abysmal feat. Sunderland was, I think, if Michael Carrick gets in charge, then I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Left back or backup striker? Left back or backup striker? I probably think a left back. I think can you imagine Luke Shaw next season against Elise, against Mbappe, against anybody with pace? Luke Shaw would be absolutely exposed. He'd be absolutely battered. So I think we probably need a left back more. JBOS there's only one, Bruno Fernandes. Look, I know you guys are Bruno Fernandes fans. I'm not going to disagree. Is that Miranda bloke any good? I don't know. JB YouTube, great. Well, you never know. You never know. One day I might be considered a great. The whole back line needs replacing. Outreach is in the house. Legend as well. I agree with you. I think the whole back four needs replacing. Aiden Heaven. I think Aiden Heaven stays. Euro, I think, needs time. I think he needs a more experienced centre-back there. Luke Shaw needs to go. Dallo needs to go. Maguire, we've been scammed. Maguire, we've been absolutely bloody scammed there. Another year with an option of a year. We've been absolutely scammed. We've been absolutely scammed there. Delict, I like him, but I think he needs to go. The Butcher, I like the Butcher. I like his attitude. I think on his day, he's a great player. Can he stay injury-free? I just don't know. If he can. Bruno could play left back. He's that good, says Henderson. JB loves. Look, I don't dislike Bruno Fernandes. I don't know where you guys have this opinion from. You know, wink, wink. I don't mind him. I don't mind him, but he's not a captain. He is not a captain at all. Juan Miranda. I need to see more. Isn't he a player from Pro Evo? Bruno can play at any position. Pablo Escobar, left back for Bruno. Butcher is too violent. The Butcher, I think he's like the way he is because I think he's lost a yard of pace. I think he has. Keep Maguire, so Ugarte, Dallo, Onana, Rashford, and Anthony. Anthony's gone. Anthony's gone, you know. He's not on loan. Anthony is already gone. Betis got him out for a really cheap deal. He's gone. Anthony has absolutely gone. Sancho is going to go as well. Onana, I don't know. Ugarte again. Bruno sweats JB. Cheeto on loan. Maybe Heaven. No, Heaven stays. Euro, for me, if I was going to send one of the two on loan, it would be him, but I think he should stay. Get back Billy and Rojo. Loan Cheeto. Maybe the Glazers, better leaders than Bruno. I would not forgive Lucha for killing Palmer's knees. Get an all wing back. He's better than Delo. When Delict returns, how Heaven playing? Yet friends, friends. Did nothing with an empty Arsenal right side. Says Switch. Now, look, let's get on to. I think this weekend. I think West Ham getting beat. I think they're possibly gone. Forest. I know. Again, I think Anderson. I think that deal now is going to be done quite quickly. I think City are going to look to move on that deal. The Geordies are not in the Champions League, and they're going to have to sell as well. The problem again for me is that Shampers. I'm going to score. Let me. I might be 75 years old, but I run marathons. I can score a goal. Portuguese friends. Shampers. Pressure on Spurs. I think Spurs are going to beat the drop. I do. I think they will. I think West Ham. And look, we're going to look to raid. We're going to look to raid these. I do have Strava, by the way, David. I do have Strava. JB Strava buddies with Sir Jim. Would you take anyone from Spurs? I would take Van der Ven. I do like him. Simon or Kudus. Simon's a Kudus for me. I do like him. I would probably go for him. Xavi Simons. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult with Spurs players. Van der Ven is going to go to a bigger club. Van der Ven, I like Van der Ven. I like his pace. I don't think we're going to sign a centre back. I think we're stocked. I think INEOS have made their choice, and I don't think they're going to sign a centre back. So, guys, on that note, I am going to go. I mean, You know, I think we do. But let's see what happens. So look, Seni Lamans or Anana. I mean, I'm not even going to answer that question because it's obvious. But look, I am going to go. I will be back this evening with the late show. So bring in all of your comments tonight. The late show is your show. I will read out your comments. I'll bring something into the chat, but it really is your show. It is your chat. So bring it on. And look, we are probably third. We've got to make signings. I think we're going to see a signing quite soon. Ederson or Matheus Fernandes. I don't know. Ederson deal is probably done. Time is a show, JB. I will probably I'll look to do one about 9:30 tonight. I'm going to probably try to do an early one tonight, so it's not 10:30 because I need my beauty sleep. Look, I've got a work week from hell this week as well, so I'm going to hopefully try to get the shows in as many as I can. But the next couple of weeks, the shows are going to really be up and down because, well, basically because work is kicking off. So, and I've got to do work because I've got to. But look, guys, I will be back this evening. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel, and I'll see you legends tonight. Take care.